Is Engelhard just a name or the most important brand in silver stacking history? It's just a silver bar, right? Wrong. If that bar says Engelhard, collectors will pay double, sometimes triple for it. But why? Why does this name carry so much weight in the stacking world? Forget gold. If you see Engelhard stamped on silver, you've found treasure. Today we're diving deep into the untold story of Engelhard, the company that helped shape the modern bullion market, ignite a vintage silver bullion obsession, and left behind a legacy still growing decades after the last bar was poured. This is Silver Oceans, and this is a story worth stacking. What's up, you guys? It's Ocean here. So, is Engelhard just a name or the most important brand in silver stacking history? Engelhard was founded by Charles W. Engelhard Sr. In the late 1900s. The company became one of the most dominant precious metals refiners in American history. During World War II, Engelhard played a crucial role in refining supply materials for the war effort. And by the 70s and 80s, they were refining silver for both industrial use and investor-grade bullion. Engelhard bars were produced at facilities across the U.S., and for some time, their logo stood for trust, quality, and authenticity. But then they stopped. Engelhard ceased producing silver bars for retail in the late 1980s, and in 2006, the company was acquired. They were gone, but not forgotten. Why don't Engelhard bars ever feel lost? Because even decades later, everyone's still looking for them. Engelhard is the hide-and-go-seek champion. Engelhard bars aren't just silver, they're storied silver. They're desirable because of these things, of trust. Trust is a big one. They're known for their purity and precision. Beauty is another thing I wanted to mention. They have distinct designs and pore lines. There's a very distinct look to them. And then there's the scarcity as well. Low mintages, high melt rates, and high demand as well. Some bars were melted down by banks, others were lost to time, and many more were stored away in vaults, forgotten until the stacking boom of the 2000s. And their hand-poured texture, stamped serial numbers, and no two alike character make them prized by collectors. And because Engelhard never published official mintage numbers, every discovery adds to the mystique. Why do Engelhard bars belong in a museum? Because half the time, even collectors aren't sure what they've found.
Well, agree to disagree.
Let's talk bars. For 1 ounce bars, pressed and poured versions both exist from Engelhard. The poured ones are rare, heavily counterfeited, and also very highly sought after. There's 3 ounce and 5 ounce bars in usual sizes, and many of these kind of odd weight sizes for Engelhard have mintages of under 1,000. They're very rare. There's 7 ounce bars. They're almost mythical. The 10 ounce bar is, if you're looking for a poured Engelhard, the 10 ounce is sort of the stacker staple that has that wide logo. There's also tall logo versions, the bold logo, and more. Different varieties. Engelhard has 20 ounce and 25 ounce bars, strange weights, likely test runs or industry contracts. There's also 50 ounce bars from Engelhard, poured, wide bars. That's another rare size. And then they have 100 ounce bars, kind of the classic Engelhard loaf that many people picture, is the 100 ounce bar. Each variation has its own collector following. What do Engelhard collectors call a really rare bar? The one that only shows up when you're broke. Now it gets fun, because Engelhard never issued a comprehensive product catalog. Collectors have spent years piecing together the company's bar history. Enter allengelhard.com. This website is the definitive registry of Engelhard silver. It documents bar types, logo variants, serial number ranges, pour styles, and everything in between. It's part encyclopedia, part detective board, and there are even bar hunters, people who scan auctions looking for unlisted variations or low serial numbers. Why did the Engelhard collector buy a magnifying glass? Because details matter, specifically when they're worth $1,000 or more an ounce. And of course, popularity can breed fakes. Engelhard bars, especially 1 ounce and 10 ounce bars, are some of the most counterfeited silver bars on the market. Fakes range from crude knockoffs to perfect replicas. That's why experienced collectors always compare to Engelhard images on allengelhard.com, test for weight, dimensions, look for serial anomalies, and generally prefer toning and aging as signs of authenticity. And always remember to buy from reputable dealers or trusted auctioneers. Today's silver bars are machine perfect, mirror polished, sealed in plastic. Engelhard bars, they're raw, industrial, beautifully imperfect. Modern mints like Scottsdale, Monarch, and Germania even try to copy that aesthetic because collectors love it. So while modern bullion may have lower premiums, Engelhard offers something more: history, scarcity, and character. So you want to start collecting Engelhard? Smart move. It's one of the most iconic names in vintage silver, but it can also be intimidating, especially with all the different fonts and weights and logos and serial numbers floating around. So let's break it down. If you're just getting started, start simple. You don't need a rare prototype to begin, just a solid, authentic piece. Begin with the 10-ounce Engelhard bar. This is the entry point for most collectors. The 10-ounce size offers tons of variation, great liquidity, and plenty of beautiful toning, all without blowing your budget. Look for something affordable with character. Poured bars tend to have more eye appeal than machined ones, and they make excellent display pieces too. Use allengelhard.com. This is your guide. It helps identify bar types, rarity, known serial ranges, production periods, and subtle design variations. Think of it as the red book of Engelhard collectors, and it's free. Don't overpay for a polished bar. Original toning, even with a few dings, is almost always preferred to a bar that's been buffed to a mirror. Natural patina tells a story. Over-cleaned bars, on the other hand, usually lose collector value, and they just don't look as cool. Once you get hooked, and trust me, you probably will, you'll start noticing what seasoned collectors are after, and here's what they look for. Early serial numbers or fancy serials, low numbers, all matching digits, or sequential bars from the same batch. Some even collect by decade or production era. Odd weights like 3 ounce, 4 ounce, 7 ounce, and half kilo. Those are just some of the odd weights that Engelhard produced. These were made in limited runs, and they're really hard to find. Completing a full weight set, that's a collecting badge of honor. Another thing is think prototype bars, test strikes, experimental bars, or refinery pieces that were never meant for public release. These are like the holy grail of Engelhards, often unique or one of a kind. The bull logo, and I have an example here, collectors drool over bars with the iconic Engelhard bull. These bars were mostly distributed overseas and are rarer in North America. And this one happens to be the with dot variety. Now you're getting into serious collector territory. Deep pour lines is another really good feature. That's something a lot of collectors look for. Some poured Engelhard bars have these beautiful lines from how the silver cooled. And these are natural, not added, and highly desirable. Every bar is unique. Another thing to look for is stamping errors. Double strikes, off-center stamps, or upside-down logos. These flawed bars often become some of the most valuable because they're quirky, traceable, and they rarely survived production. So we get into the collector's dilemma. Be warned, once you start chasing certain bars, it can take years to find the right one. Some collectors have spent a decade or more hunting a missing single weight or serial number just to complete their set. You might start with one 10-ounce bar, but before you know it, you're researching serial numbers, comparing fonts, and messaging strangers on Instagram asking, hey, is that a Canadian pour variant? Welcome to the deep end. What's the Engelhard collector's retirement plan? Sell one bar, then spend 10 years trying to buy it back. Vintage bar collecting is booming, and the market's getting more competitive by the day. Because unlike modern bullion coins that are minted in huge quantities every year, vintage silver bars are a finite relic of the past. Once a bar is melted or lost or locked away in a private collection, it's gone, sometimes forever. That fixed supply is meeting rising demand from both new collectors and seasoned stackers looking to diversify in vintage silver, especially Engelhard. eBay, Instagram sales, and private collector groups are all reporting record high prices for certain categories, especially things like early serial numbers. Collectors love bars with low serial numbers, especially the first 1,000 or 10,000 made. These are often tracked on collector sites like allengelhard.com. 3-ounce and 5-ounce Engelhard bars, these were made in smaller numbers than the 10-ounce bars, and many collectors are trying to complete full weight set series. The double stamped or misaligned serials, once considered flaws, these errors are now seen as quirky, rare, and highly collectible, kind of like a silver version of a misprinted baseball card. The collector community has become a full-on subculture. Online forums like the now defunct Kitco boards archived, or active groups on Reddit, Instagram, Discord, Facebook. All these places serve as hubs for information sharing. Collectors swap registry numbers, compare variants, and discuss the tiniest die changes. Some even treat rare bars like holy grails, referring to them as white whale finds. Bars that are, so rare, so elusive, that one only pops up every few years. And then there's the deep end of the hobby. Some collectors have entire safes dedicated to just Engelhard. Others create spreadsheets, photo archives, and even custom-built display cases for their sets. It's not just about silver weight, it's about the history, rarity, and craftsmanship. Okay, how about this? Is Engelhard overhyped? Let's be honest. Some people think Engelhard premiums are nuts. They look at a listing and say, why would someone pay $500 for a bar with $350 worth of silver in it? That's a fair question. But the answer isn't just about silver weight, it's about value beyond the metal. Here's why collectors don't just stack Engelhard, they chase them. I gotta point to the history. Engelhard was one of the most powerful names in American industry. Their fingerprints are on the catalytic converters, aerospace innovation, and even gold refining industries, even on the US Mint. Each bar is a piece of that legacy, a physical artifact from an era when refiners mattered and craftsmanship wasn't an afterthought. You're not just holding silver, you're holding 1980s industrial history in your palm. Another thing is every Engelhard bar tells a story. Some were poured at a defunct refinery. Some carry rare misprints. Some have journeyed from vault to vault, collector to collector, picking up character and toning along the way. A modern bullion round has no story, it's a product. But an Engelhard bar, it might be one of a kind, stamped with a quirky serial, aged with natural patina, and discovered at the bottom of a coin shop bin like buried treasure. All these things tie together, maybe even identity. For many stackers, Engelhard represents more than silver, it's a statement. It says, I value authenticity, I appreciate scarcity, I don't follow trends, I understand them. Some people wear Rolex, some people drive Broncos, and some people stack Engelhard because it's silver with soul. We live in an era of infinite mintage. Every week there's a new limited edition round, generic looking proof round, or ultra high relief collectible, but Engelhard is the opposite of that noise. No marketing hype, no gimmicks, no remints, just real silver poured decades ago under industrial conditions that can never be reproduced. In a world full of disposable designs, Engelhard bars are permanent, unrepeatable, and real. So is Engelhard overhyped? Only if you measure silver by weight alone. But if you value story, scarcity, and substance, then no. Engelhard isn't overhyped. It's understood. Engelhard may be gone, but its legacy lives on. Its bars are more than bullion. They're relics of a golden age in American refining. They connect us to a time when silver was real, industrial, and personal. So whether you stack it, collect it, or just admire it, Engelhard deserves your attention. Why did the Engelhard bar skip the gym? It's already solid. Stack white as the ocean.